Hello. I've come on a few minutes early because I wanted to make sure that you all knew that this really is a masterclass that's about to happen. And just to say thank you so much for joining. So what you'll see is that there is a chat box to your right. And I would love to know where you're from. So I will see your messages and just tell me where you are. Say hi to us and where you're from in the world. I know that I've got people coming in from all around the world. It's been so exciting to see how many people have registered for this masterclass. And I absolutely love hearing from you. So just if somebody would say their name, just so I could just type your name in the chat box so that I can know that you're on. Just that sometimes, great. Okay, sometimes there's a little delay actually. So, and then I panic and I think, oh no, help, nobody's joining. So we've got people from Maidenhead, Indiana, USA. How amazing. Nottingham, Sheffield, Burnley, amazing. Harrow in London, from Watford, Hertfordshire. So we've got, all over the place. Some from across the pond in America, some where I am in London, but I'm in South London, and some from countryside maybe, or city, Nottingham. My son, who I'm going to tell you about, is at university in Nottingham. So that's kind of exciting. And just say, so hi and where you're from, and maybe tell me how many kids you've got. That would be nice to know. Do you have one, and maybe their age? Because I'm going to start in a couple of minutes. I'm going to put up my slides, but like I say, it's lovely to see that my little early birds who've come on early. And oh, look, here we go. Got to scroll up here. So we've got Glasgow okay, someone who's a childcare worker, Anna Mum, lovely, in Scotland, amazing. Dorset, someone else from Glasgow, don't know if you know each other. Fife, amazing. I don't know that part of the world. Northern Ireland, wow, we have got... and somebody has got one child, amazing, 2.5. They're all coming through here. Lovely. So 2.5-year-old little boy, 2.5-year-old twins. Somebody said they're from Lisbon in Northern Ireland. Amazing. Isn't the world incredible? Sarah from South London, maybe not so far away from me. One boy almost 4 and a baby due in 9 weeks. Wow, good luck. I hope that all goes well. Someone's got a 21-year-old by the looks of it, and a little one. That's it. I have 3, a 21-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 1-year-old. Wow, that's amazing. That's a bit of a spread. And somebody is on maternity, works in a nursery. Fabulous. Belfast. I can't tell you how exciting it is for me to see all these people joining us from all over the world. So if you've just joined, tell me where you're coming in from and maybe what age your child is. 18 months, and often the tantrums will start at that age. So, that's interesting. You may not be on here directly for tantrums, but it's all about those challenges of misbehavior. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is start my presentation. Excellent. Okay. Well, it is dead on time, and a hugely warm welcome to everybody who's already joined me, and also to anybody that is joining in now to learn the secrets to managing tantrums, meltdowns, and misbehavior. And I'm Camilla McGill, and I'm absolutely thrilled to have so many of you here. What I'm just going to do now, you've seen me, some of you have seen me while I was chatting a little bit earlier. I'm going to switch my camera off so that you can make the most of looking at my slides, and then I'll come on again at different points so you can see, you know, I can illustrate something by actually being on camera. So I'm just going to turn that off now, and we're going to kick right off. For those of you that have printed out your workbook, have it there. If you haven't managed to do that, if you don't have a printer, don't worry, just grab yourself a piece of paper, because this is going to be a twofold thing. It's going to be about you writing down and also commenting in the chat box, because that means that you get the most from this, because means you're really paying attention. And you are, you know, when you write things down, when you comment in the chat box, it really helps people, other people, to know all about you and what you're experiencing. So definitely use the chat box and use your workbook or a piece of paper. So this is the goal of our time together. It is, I want to talk to you about powerful principles to avoid or manage poor behavior without resorting to shouts or threats. Now, I don't know about you, but I suspect that that probably sounds like a good idea. So if that sounds, yeah, that's what I would like, just give me a yes in the chat box. What I really want you to do is stop multitasking if you're multitasking. Turn off your other distractions. So whether if you're watching this on a phone, turn off the volume. If you're watching it on a laptop, then switch off your phone. But just really take the time. I'm giving you everything I can tonight, and I want you to really pay attention to this. So yeah, some of you are saying, yes, please, that's what I want. So this is for you if you are open to new ideas. So if you're open to new ideas, give me a thumbs up or an open in the chat box. Great. And somebody's saying already how guilty I feel. Listen, I know that. And that's why your interaction in the chat box and seeing that other people feel guilty too, can make you feel better. This is also for you if you want to avoid the battles. Give me a yes if you want to avoid the battles and you want them to listen without having to raise your voice, without having to get to that point where you threaten. So if that's you, yeah, give me a yes in the chat box. So I've got a lot of people saying they're open to new ideas. And yes, they definitely want to avoid those battles and get kids to listen without shouts or threats. This is also for you if you want to spend more time actually enjoying your kids. You know, so often we find with the daily grind that joy isn't there. So if you would like to have more joy from your kids, give me a joy in the chat box. And if you want to improve what you're doing, I am not saying you're a bad parent. In fact, I put up a post on Instagram that said, repeat after me, I am not a bad parent. I'm just doing the best I can. And I am totally empathetic to that. I think everybody does the best they can with the resources that they've got. Just say, if you want to improve, if that sounds good, do you want to improve and do you want to learn? Because that's what this is about. You're open to the learning. So let's get down to the nitty gritty. Who is having these kind of challenges? And no shame around this, but you're experiencing rudeness, screaming, fighting, some aggression, maybe they're unkind sometimes, they're defiant. And I'm not saying you've got bad kids. Absolutely not. Maybe you've got some attitude. Does anybody have any attitude going on? What they often will call a three-nager. This tonight isn't about any specific age, but most of my people that I work with have got kids between the age of about 18 months and 11. That's the kind of my range. But, you know, that sort of attitude can come through early or it can come through later. Maybe your kid is getting known as the bad or the naughty one. That can happen either in the family, or it can also happen at their nursery or school environment. And you want to avoid it. You're finding that that's, you know, once they start getting that label, They're often scapegoated by other kids. They're blamed for things that they're not doing. So, and, you know, it becomes, when they have that label, they tend to act out of it. So if you're having that challenge, yeah, give me a yes in the chat box. I've also seen some people saying no specific problems, but they want to learn. And that's great. You're still in the right place. But if you are experiencing these kind of things, listen on, because I've got some ideas for you. What about unpredictable tantrums and meltdowns? They ask you for pasta, you give them the pasta, and they have an utter meltdown and say that wasn't what they wanted. You can't figure them out. Or maybe you haven't quite hit that yet, but you'd like to prepare ahead, because what can very often happen is that you've got, and this happened with one of my children, I'm going to tell you all about him, Felix. He was a really cute, happy little 2-year-old, and he turned 3. And oh my God, those unpredictable tantrums and meltdowns started happening. So you may not be getting this yet, but it may be something that you want to be prepared for. So again, you're in the right place. And who feels like this? That you're fed up with nagging and repeating yourself. If that's you, just write nag and repeat in the chat box so other people know that that's you. Sometimes, not always, but you might feel a bit powerless. I know when my husband and I first got help with our parenting, we were asked, does he know, this was with our eldest son, Nico, does he know that you're in charge? And we thought, oh my God, no. We feel like he runs circles around us. We feel like we've got mug written across our foreheads. We just felt quite powerless with it. Sometimes you might feel like, yeah, nagging is something that happens a lot. Maybe you feel like nothing works. You've tried a lot and nothing works. And maybe you're worried that you're getting it all wrong. But if you're not, that may not be you yet, but just think ahead for that kind of, wanting to be prepared to avoid it. But so fed up with repeating, and it doesn't even make any difference. Loads of people are saying that. Yeah. Okay. So here's what I'm about. Being a compassionate parent is the most effective way of bringing out the best in your child and getting connection and cooperation. And I'm going to show you what I mean by that. But if we think of our children as little seedlings, which they are, and we want to create the right foundation for them, the right soil for them, the most powerful and effective way of doing that is by being compassionate, getting connection, and that will lead to cooperation. So here, in case you hadn't realized, I am Camilla. I'm just going to put my little camera on there so you can see me in the bottom right. I'm Camilla McGill. I'm the founder of My Parenting Solutions. And some of you may know me from Instagram. And if you know me from Instagram, or perhaps you've got some of my weekly blog, you'll know that I'm passionate about parenting. I absolutely love the job that I do. And I'm totally passionate about helping parents be the best that they can be. That's not about being perfect, but it's being the best that you can be and learning and improving. I've been a parent educator for 20 years, and I've worked with thousands of parents. So I'm not like a new to it, yummy mummy who, they're great, but I'm not that person. I've got, 4 children of my own who range from 16 to 23. And I've studied, I've researched, I've spent a long time on refining the best methods for parenting that isn't about being perfect. So that's me. And I'm going to just turn my camera off now and take you on. Okay, so this is my family. Like I say, I've got 4 kids. So on the left, when they were very little, were Nico and Felix. And on the right, sort of at the bottom, Scarlett and Alice. And there they are on the right. That was taken last summer in lockdown. I'm absolutely proud. I'm so proud of my kids. They're not perfect. They'll argue about whose turn it is to unload the dishwasher. They'll complain that they've got to help to lay the table or unload the washing machine. But we have a really close relationship. And I can honestly say that it's rare for us to argue. But that's because I'm skilled and I have the right tools that I've learned through so many mistakes. And anyway, that's my family. So what's unique about what I'm talking to you about and about my approach is that I really believe in parenting with compassion, with firm boundaries and tough love. And sometimes you've got to be prepared to upset your child. You've got to be prepared to not be liked by them. We're not their friends. We want their love and we want connection. But sometimes what we have to do will upset them. So firm boundaries, but parenting with compassion. So if that sounds like something that you'd like, just say yes in the chat box. Say, yes, that sounds good, or you can write whatever you like. But compassion and boundaries is what I'm about. So perhaps you could write that in the chat box. So I want to tell you about what is now known in our family as that fateful holiday. So here's the scene. I have Alice, who was 3 months old, Scarlett, who was 2, Felix pictured there, who looks like butter wouldn't melt in his mouth, who it was 4, and Nico, who was 7. There was about just under 3 years between my 2 boys and a shorter gap between the girls. So there is Felix, and we go on holiday with some friends of ours to France. And here is a picture. I found this just yesterday, and I thought, oh my God, look at that. So in this picture, look who's unhappy. Little Felix on the left with his head in his hands, just looking utterly miserable. And how that manifested on what I call our fateful holiday was that he just kept annoying the other kids. He would snatch toys out of their hand. He would interrupt games that they were playing. He was a bad sport. He would throw things down if he didn't win. They had a paddling pool. We were staying in our friend's grandparents' house, and the grandparents weren't there. That's beside the point. But they had a paddling pool, and he'd push the other kids in the paddling pool, or he'd get in the paddling pool and he wouldn't let anybody else come in. And we were just getting more and more frustrated with him. And we tried telling him off. We tried removing him. We tried giving some threats to him that he couldn't come and join in the next game if that's the way he was going to behave. And he was just worse and worse. So one day we took them all to the beach for the day, and he had a relatively nice day. On the way to the beach, he was able to sit in the middle row of our car. We'd borrowed my brother's SUV, a Volvo, and we were pretty excited to have a car like that to go on holiday. And the kids liked the middle seats. So on the way to the beach, he was allowed to sit in the middle seat. And on the way back, he had to sit in the back seat. So we leave the beach and we get him towards the car, and Nico and the girls are strapped in, and it's Felix's turn to get into the back seats. And he starts up, and our friends have their children strapped in nicely, well behaved, and Felix starts kicking and screaming at me. I'm not getting in that seat. It's not fair. It's my turn. I'm sitting in the middle seat. And I started off by being a little bit calm, and then I just got more and more cross with him. I shouted at him. I told him that he was really driving us all crazy and that we were in a hurry, which we were because we had to get back. It was pre-sat-nav. We had to go with our friends because we didn't know the way back to their house. And I was getting really, really hot and sweaty. I had a dry mouth. I just didn't, I was just at my wit's end. And I don't know about you, if you felt like this, at your wit's end with your child. And so I just realized that I wasn't going to get him in that seat. And I took him to the side of the car park, right by our car. And I sat down in the dusty verge of this car park in view of our friends I felt so embarrassed. I felt ashamed of Felix and of myself. and of the whole situation and the fact that we were keeping them waiting. But I knew that I needed to take a different approach with him. And I decided to use some of the skills that I already knew about, but I hadn't been accessing. And I held him tight. And I told him that it was going to be okay. And I told him that it was like we were in stormy waters, and that he was going to be able to calm down, and that he would be able to get back in the car. And I also told him how much I loved him. And children, when they are in a state like this, they hate themselves. But I told him that I loved him, and he calmed down. And this little sweaty, limp body, little body that had been thrashing around went limp. And he started to cry, but it wasn't a cry of anger. It was just a cry of letting out that emotion. And I got him back in the car, in the back seat. I didn't give in. I didn't make Nico swap seats with him. He got in the car, we strapped him in, and we set off. And my husband said to me, "What do you think they think of us? Because we can feel so worried about what other people think." And I said, "You know what? In 15, 20 years' time, they may not be our friends. In 5 years' time, they may not be our friends. But he's always going to be our child, and we've got to do the best by him." In fact, they're great friends of ours still, and they laugh about that situation with us, but it was so painful at the time. But what I want you to know about Felix, that wasn't the last tantrum he had by any means. But I learned through trial and error. I made mistakes, and that's why I love helping parents, because I want to help you avoid making some of the mistakes that I made. Felix, not last summer, but the summer before, went on Camp America. He got himself a job at a summer camp. And it was the guy, Howard, that ran the camp was incredibly tough taskmaster. And Felix would FaceTime me from time to time, and he'd tell me about the camp counselors that Howard had fired. He'd said, "Oh, last night, this girl Jenny wasn't up to scratch, and she had to leave." So I was kind of worried about what was going to happen to Felix. Anyway, he stuck it out. He was there 7 weeks. And at the end of the 7 weeks, he emailed Howard, and he asked him if he could have a reference. And this is a small amount of the reference, a snapshot of what this guy wrote. What made Felix a truly remarkable employee was the overwhelming love, compassion, and genuine affection he provided every child who was entrusted to his care. Felix's honest and warm demeanor made him a true friend to one and all. And what I want you to think about is it's not just your children now. You've got to think about them you've got to think about this in the long term. You've got to think about what kind of adult do I want my child to turn into? And therefore, how do I need to be parenting now in order to help that? Again, not about being perfect, but about really knowing the right principles for raising healthy children. And he'll ring me up from university and talk to me and share things with me and with my husband. And that's, that is what you want for your kids. You want them to turn out emotionally healthy and good people in the world. So what did you get for yourself from that story? What resonates for you as you listen to me tell that story? So stick some of the things in the chat box about what resonates for you from listening to what I've just said. Some of these things come through a bit slow for me. So I'm actually going to just take a little drink of water. Okay. So stick around to hear more, because I want to talk to you about how you can take action. Just tell me, you may have just joined, just tell me what issues you're dealing with. What kind of situations are you having? Because that's why you're here. I would suspect that you're having some difficult situations, and maybe it's, physical aggression directed at you. Maybe it's some of the things that I've already talked about. So being able to take a breather. That's putting yourself in your child's shoes. So those are the kind of things that you're getting. Great. Okay. Lovely. So if you could put some of the things in the chat box for you're dealing with. Great. Okay, lovely. And remember about being compassionate parent is the most effective way of bringing out the best in your child. So I want to show you, you can grab your notebooks now, your workbooks, or a piece of paper and draw me an axis on it. So I want to talk to you about my compassion cooperation matrix. So down on the Y axis, you've got low and high, and you've got levels of kids' levels of cooperation. And on the X axis, along the bottom, low to high, you've got our empathy and compassion. Now, what you're going to find is you may see yourself in each of the quadrants. And this is not about judgment, but I'm going to show you the quadrant that I ultimately want you to think about learning and deciding to put yourself in as much as you can. Okay, so if we're going to look at the bottom axis here, where we've got low empathy and low compassion, and I'd also add in low connection to that. So what happens then is very often we've got low levels of cooperation from our kids. And when we're in this point, in this part of the axis, what we're very often doing is we're shouting, we're criticizing, and we're making hollow threats that our kids know that we're not going to follow through on. So we start to lose their respect. They will very often ignore us. They'll lose respect, or they'll do exactly the opposite to what we've asked them. So that is getting low levels of cooperation, and when our empathy or our connection or our compassion for them is low. Let's have a look at the next one. Okay, so where we may have not very much connection or compassion, just feeling incredibly irritated by our children, but we may be able to get some level of high level of cooperation. That's what I would call when we go into Sergeant Major. And then we're using our force. It might be physical force. I could have forced Felix into that car seat. I absolutely could have done that, but I know that there would have been massive repercussions if I had. So we can sometimes use force. We can use fear. We can wield our power, but our level of connection and empathy with them is very low at that point. And the result is that they shut down, they resent us, and they feel disconnected from us. And then what can happen is they start to cover things up when they've made mistakes because they're too frightened of the repercussions of it. Now, I'm making a forceful point here. I'm not criticizing you if you have done this, because we often don't have the tools for knowing what to do that works the best. So let's have a look at this. This is interesting. You may have a really high level of empathy and compassion for your child, but actually you're not able to get them to do things that you want them to do. And we have to get our kids, let's face it, we have to get our kids to do things that they don't want to do. So what will often happen when you're in this part of the matrix is you're being very kind and understanding, but quite often you're giving in. You're being a bit too soft. You're maybe living in a household that's a little bit too child-centered. So therefore, you're losing yourself to parenting, and the child is ruling the roost. So the repercussions of that is that that's actually very confusing for a child, because they need us to be in charge. And it puts them in charge if we're being too soft or giving in. So let's have a look at the next part of the matrix, which is where I want to encourage you to learn to be in consistently. It's about consistently holding the boundaries. not by being a sergeant major, not by shouting at them, but by staying calm in the face of misbehavior, and also connecting with them. So you may have to write very quickly to fill out. I'm going to show you the next slide, which has got them all in. And if you want, you could take a screenshot of this. But that is about staying calm in the face of misbehavior. And when that happens, they have respect for you. They will listen to you. They will cooperate, and you'll have that connection and closeness with them. So which quadrant would you say you were in? I'm going to pop them all up here. Would you say you're in quadrant 1, where you're using the hollow threats and they're ignoring you? Would you say sometimes what we do is what I call pendulum. So sometimes we pendulum from these quadrants. So it might be, and I know that I used to be here, I pendulum from being quadrant 3 too soft, and then I'd think, oh no, I'm being an absolute fool, to quadrant 1 coming down too hard on the misbehavior. So quite some of you are you're in quadrant 3, so giving in a bit too much, or sometimes 4, excellent. So this isn't about judgment, but I'm showing you where you want to be aiming for. So I know that I'm going to move fast here. So I'm going to move on to the 3 secrets of managing misbehavior and tantrums. So the 3 secrets are talking so kids will listen, standing in your child's shoes, and the understanding that our behavior impacts their behavior. So let's have a look at secret 1. The very first book that I ever read. So I've got a lot of you, coming up in quadrant 4 sometimes. Fantastic. If you're in quadrant 4, absolutely fantastic. And I'm all about helping you develop even more tools to stay as much as you can in quadrant 4. So the very first parenting book that I read is a great book called How to Talk So Kids Will Listen, and Listen So Kids Will Talk. And that's secret 1. So if you're wanting to be in quadrant 1 and getting them to listen to you and getting them to follow instructions and doing things that you've asked them to do, you need to know that you've got to talk so they will listen. So you've got to stop shouting, judging, or telling them off. Now, I know that that's difficult because sometimes it's, we feel like we've asked them once, we've asked them twice, we've asked them 3 times. I'm not saying this is easy, but when you have the right tools, you'll learn how to stop shouting and judging them and telling them off. Because let's have a look at this. Let's face it, who has responded well to being shouted at? Think about if your partner shouts at you. If you've been in the workplace and you've been shouted at, where are your levels of cooperation? Will you really want to listen to that person? Will you have an open relationship with them? Being judged. Very often we're very, very quick to judge our children and not give them the benefit of the doubt. We'll look at something that they've done and we'll think that they've done it on purpose. They've done it to spite us. They've done it because they just want to piss us off. Who's responded well to being told off? I know I haven't, but we feel like we have to consistently tell our children off in order to get them to do what we want them to do. So if you think about, will you actually listen to that person if those are what's being said to you? And it's the same for our children. So here I want to tell you about Renata and Robert. So Renata, look at little Robert there. Another one like Felix, looks like butter wouldn't melt in his mouth. That wasn't the case. They were really, really struggling with Robert. He's 7. He was being rude to both his parents, to their nanny. He was being aggressive. He was getting in big trouble at school. It had reached the point when he was banned from the school bus. So they couldn't even let him go to school on the school bus because he'd hit another child on the school bus. They were really at their wits' end. Now, this might sound, very extreme, but he'd reached the age of 7, and these were the kind of experiences it had built up, and they hadn't learned how to handle him. So Renata came on my program, and one of the first things she learned was all the different ways to help her avoid shouting. She also learned to really understand what was going on for Robert. And what I didn't mention about the story of Felix was just how unhappy he'd been. He told me about it afterwards. The other kids had been teasing him when parents weren't looking, and he was overreacting. They had been kind of poking at him and made him miserable. And these kind of things came out when Renata learned how to really get him to, the other half of that book is how to listen so kids will talk. So she really learned about what was going on for Robert. And she learned all kinds of different ways to improve how he felt about himself, to teach him how to calm himself down. And she calmed down too. What was amazing is that I got an email from Renata not very long after she started accessing my program and really working on learning the best tools for bringing out the best in Robert. He was awarded, he got the award for the best behaved child at school that week. And he got a headmaster's mention in the school newsletter. He was going to bed on time. He was happily eating meals with his parents, stuff that just wasn't available from them before she learnt the best way to deal with him. So it's about catching the good. What we very often do is we will notice what they're doing wrong and feel like we need to tell them off. So bringing out the best, getting your child to listen is really about catching the good. So write that down. You've got your notebooks there. So this is about, secret number 1 is talk so your child will listen. And part of that is by catching the good, catching the things that they're doing right and telling them and praising them and mentioning it to them. So I want you to think about how you could change. What could you do based on already what you've learned that might mean that you could change? And I'm just going to tell you now about secret 2. So actually in your workbook, there was a point, there's a place for you to write what you got from secret 1. So write that down, or maybe tell me here in the chat box what you could do to change in terms of how you talk to your child. So here's secret 2. Just going to grab another drink of water. This is thirst-making stuff. Stand in your child's shoes. If only on that fateful holiday, I'd had the wherewithal to stand in Felix's shoes, I would have really understood how miserable he was, and I might have been able to find out why, rather than reacting to the fact that he was being a bad sport and spoiling the other kids' games. Sometimes it takes quite a lot of time to really uncover why they are being challenging. So it's about standing in their shoes, even when it's pressing our buttons. So look at this little boy here. You know, what you could say is he's being a pain. He's being spoiled. He's spoiled because he wants another hot chocolate and it's finished. But actually, if you really stand in the shoes of a 3-year-old, it's really disappointing for them when their hot chocolate's finished. They were hoping that it was going to last longer. Maybe they've asked you for a biscuit and you've said no. I'm not saying you have to always give in to things like that, but it's about standing in their shoes and knowing that the children are they're totally full of feelings. They will flip from happiness to desperation in a nanosecond. And, you know, it's not easy to know what's going on, But even when things press our back buttons, if we stop the judgment and start to think about the world from our child's perspective, that is going to really make the difference between you being a compassionate parent and holding boundaries and having a good relationship with your child, to getting in fights with them and shouting at them and telling them off. Nicole, I'm going to tell you about Nicole, really busy mum of two, and what was happening for her. I don't know if this happens for you, but she was having massive fights in the morning when she's trying to get out to work. Caspian was just refusing to get dressed. He was screaming for the iPad. He didn't want to eat his breakfast. He didn't want to put his coat on. And she was winding up getting in so many fights with him, screaming at him, threatening him, or she was, doing too much for him, getting him dressed when she wanted him to get dressed himself. And she just decided it had to stop. She didn't want to, her and her husband, Oliver didn't want to have that kind of life anymore. One of the tools that they learned, some of you may have got this already as a downloadable booklet, but they really got to grips with the GREAT method and started applying it. They learned how to manage their time differently and get Caspian more on board, so that mornings just became a totally different ballgame. They started to time was just they managed their time much better. And the outcome was that he had a much happier journey to nursery, and they didn't lose time in all that emotional energy that's spent in the battles. Because very often parents say, your stuff takes time to learn. I don't really have time for that. But actually, you need to think about the repercussions for when you don't invest time in changing and getting things right. Recognizing that kids' behavior is driven by how they are feeling, is about standing in their shoes. Now, listen, sometimes it just makes no sense. We could look at this little girl and we could think, she asked for the pink wellies and she wants to go to the park. Why is she lying down? Sometimes it just makes no sense. But what won't work in this kind of situation is telling her off, telling her she's being silly, telling her that she should stop making such a fuss, because their behavior is driven by a feeling. And for some reason, that little girl is feeling upset. Maybe it's nothing to do with the pink wellies. Maybe it's to do with something else. But we need to recognize that their behavior is driven by how they're feeling. Kirsty, I want to tell you about Kirsty, another mum of two. So she reached out to me because she was at her wit's end with Nina's jealous and demanding behavior. She felt like she had really failed her little girl. She felt like all she did was tell her off and get cross. And actually the outcome of that was Nina just got worse and worse. Nina was particularly bad with Rory, her little brother. She would grab things from him, snatch at him, push him, trip him up when he was trying to walk. And Kirsty would just get crosser and crosser with him. She felt like she couldn't even leave them alone for 2 seconds together without Nina being really violent and difficult towards her brother. But she knew that she was going about it the wrong way. Nina came on my program and she learned all these great tools to stop telling Nina off. Sorry, Kirsty came on my program. She wrote to me this week and she said, things aren't perfect, but she's just has so many times when she might just get down to Nina's level and say, it's hard, isn't it? She used to say, you've got to share. And now she'd say, it's hard, isn't it? When Rory tries to snatch your toy and you're having a nice game with it. And because Nina feels like Kirsty's much more on her side, she now says, Mummy, shall I go and get him a different toy to play with? And she'll trot off and get him a different toy. So all that emotional, awful energy spent on telling her off is gone, because they're having so much more calm time together, and she's able to deal so much better with Nina. And here's secret number 3: our behavior impacts theirs. Now, this took me a really long time to learn, because what I thought is their behavior impacted me. But actually, when we think about things from terms of how we're behaving towards our children impacting them, then we know that we can have a really positive influence on them if we change ourselves. So you need to know that children are sponges. They pick up on everything. And if we are dealing with them in the wrong way, they're picking up on the negative. They've got massive antennae. They're always picking up everything that's going on around them. Our body language, our tone of voice, they're picking up on it all the time. And if we think, okay, I need to change my behavior because therefore that's going to impact positively my child. Here's Michelle and Ed. I want to tell you about them. The reason that I'm telling you this, because I could give you like 3 little tips to take away, but actually that's not going to change how it's about making that decision that parenting principles are what I need to do. I need to take away the fact that I need to make some decisions about changing how I approach the situations with my child. So that's what Michelle and Ed felt. She was really low in confidence. She felt really, really stuck. It's so hard when our children lie down on the, this is what was happening with Liel, her little girl. She would just lie down on the floor and scream no at her mum. And Michelle just felt really stuck with it. And she used to just resort to threats or bribes to get her out of it. She's using different tools now. And what she will do, so she wrote to me this week, she told me such a sweet story. She said that she'd got a new bed for Liel. Sorry, she's ordered a new bed, a big girl's bed. And they've been talking about the big girl's bed. They're moving house and she's going to have the big girl's bed in her new house. But Liel got it into her head that the big girl's bed was coming right now. So she it was bedtime just last week, and Liel had an absolute meltdown, screaming for the big girl's bed. And Michelle said what she would have done ordinarily is either get cross with her and tell her, right, that's it, we're not having the bed at all. Or she might have lied and said, oh, Mommy, don't worry, Mommy's going to get it for you tomorrow, knowing that it wasn't coming tomorrow. But instead, she got down to her level and she empathized and she was compassionate. And she said, do you know what? It's really hard because you want that bed so much. You really wish that you had the bed right now. And Liel started to calm down, and she just disarmed her by using that compassion. But she didn't change her mind, and she couldn't change her mind, and she didn't use any threats. She feels so much more equipped. And what was so cute is that she said to Liel, what would you like to do tomorrow that would make you feel happy? And Liel said she'd like to make cakes. And there they are. There were the cakes that they made. She sent me a photograph of it. We're not going to get things perfect, but one of the things that you can do to help to manage your impact on them is take away some of the shoulds, because, we need to think about managing our expectations about our children. And when we have a should in there, they should be behaving well. They should know they should listen to me. They should do what I say straight away. If we can take that out, then we can deal with them a different way. And also, I should be a good parent. So I would take the word should, write it down, and then put a line through it. So don't use shoulds. Here's Emma. Also, another situation where it was so difficult for her. Her little girl needed hospital visits, and every visit to the hospital was so stressful. She just used to scream. Izzy would scream her head off about having these blood tests. And what she did is, again, the great method that I've already mentioned. You can use that, your booklet for that. Amongst other things, she used methodology that helped to transform the next hospital visit. And they went to that hospital. Instead of Izzy screaming their place down, they got into the room where the nurse used to take her blood. She trotted in, happy, sat up on the bench, and let the nurse's jaws dropped. And so instead of, again, having all that emotional trauma around having a blood test, everything became so much more simple. So how would it feel to you to avoid conflict? How would it, so what I'd like, if this is resonating with you, what I'm talking about is resonating with you, how would it feel to you to avoid conflict? Would you feel calmer? Would life be easier? If you think yes, so maybe stick calmer in the chat box, easier in the chat box. Maybe you'd feel more connected if you could avoid conflict. Or maybe you'd like to learn, maybe you're not having so much conflict now, but you'd like to learn how to avoid it if it does come up. And if you felt more skilled with avoiding conflict, how would that feel? Yeah. So we've got stick that in the chat box. Calmer, easier, more connected. Great. Okay. Happier. Avoiding those conflicts, avoiding the arguments with the children, getting into loggerheads with them. How would it feel for you to stay firm but positive? Would you feel that your child will be more secure? So if that's, you just stick secure in the chat box. Maybe you'd feel more in charge. Maybe you'd feel more confident. Maybe it's also kind of a relief that, having permission to stay firm but positive. Great. Okay. So it was my grid, just coming back to it. And what I want to encourage you is to think about, and I'm going to tell you more about how different ways that you can access how to learn more, get perhaps, learn more techniques, because I can't cover them all tonight in this, but this is where you want to be in that matrix. Emotional connections, calm, kids having respect for you. I'm just going to skip over what the Princess of Wales said. So this is what I've been talking about. Talking so kids will listen. Standing in your child's shoes. And the fact that our behavior impacts their behavior. And just tell me in the chat box if that has been useful for you. If that's been useful, give me a yes. But what I want to ask you is, on a scale of 1 to 10, right now, how confident do you feel about talking so your kids will listen? How confident do you feel about standing in their shoes and empathizing? And how confident do you feel about changing your behavior to impact their behavior? So on a scale of 1 to 10, tell me where you would put yourself. Would it be, like a 1, I really don't feel confident at all. A 10, yeah, I feel super confident. So give me a scale between 1 and 10. Stick that in the chat box and tell me where you are. So the chat box, I'm going to take another drink while I'm waiting to you. Scale of 1 to 10, 0 or 1 is very low in confidence, and 10 is super confident in how to talk so kids will listen, bring out the best in your kids, parent with compassion. Okay, great. So we've got a mix. Some people are feeling very confident. Excellent. Some people less so. And how would it feel to you if you dramatically improved your confidence? If you maybe went above a 10, how would that feel? Would that be good for you? because success is liking yourself. I love this quote. Success is liking yourself, liking what you do and liking how you do it. And we are not taught to be parents. And that's what I'm always saying. You know, if we, children don't come with a manual. We're taught any other career that we have in our life, we're taught to do it. We go on training courses and we learn, we get degrees in things, but we don't have that with parenting. And that's where I come in. So what I'd love to ask you is, what has been most valuable so far about what I've been talking to you? But stay with me because I've got more to tell you about. So far, what would you say has been most valuable? So I'm just needing to find the patience. Yeah, somebody's put that up. Or knowing that you need to be patient. What's resonated with you? So if you can just stick some of those things in the chat box, come back to me if you've been multitasking. Tell me, what do you think has been most valuable and what's resonated with you tonight? While I take yet another drink of water, because this is getting down to their level, offering alternatives without bribes and sticking to your ground. Great. Stories, before and after, parents with kids. Great. Okay. Lovely. And what action do you think you might take? So maybe some people have already said that. Sticking to their guns, stopping shouting and taking a breather. Some people like the Matrix. Fantastic. Standing in the child's shoes. So what often happens is that you're still left with some challenges. Like, how do I do this? How do I learn to stop shouting? How do I get them to consistently cooperate? How do I stay calm and understand my child? Sometimes we feel so paralyzed. We don't know what to do in the moment when they are being really challenging. So this is very often the challenges that we're left with. And I want to tell you that I'm really, as a parent, you know, I told you that I very rarely have arguments with my teenagers. That's not because I'm special, but it's because I have learned tools. I've refined them and tweaked them. And I've worked with so many parents who have taught me things. I've studied, I've researched, and I've just learned how to do it. And that's why I'm so passionate. And I want to show you how you can deepen your knowledge even further. What I'm going to tell you now is not for everyone, but I want you to see if it might be for you. So I have developed a training program called the Tantrum Taming Toolkit, and I'm going to explain to you what's involved in this. So listen up, because I am so excited about this program. It launched last year. The parents that came on the program have been blown away by the transformation they've had with their families. None of them say they're perfect, but they just feel so much happier, better equipped, and have a home life that's just so much easier and calmer. So it shows you how to be a compassionate parent and have this calmer, happier family life. Feel skilled at it. You know, as I say, we're not taught to be a parent. It's a really, really difficult job. I follow somebody called Jamie Kern Lima. She's an amazing woman. And she sold her company, It Cosmetics, to L'Oreal for $1.2 billion. She worked incredibly hard building that company up. And she now has a 3-year-old and a 1-year and a baby, or 1-year-old, I don't know, something about those kind of ages. And she says between being a CEO and being a parent is way harder. So if you're finding this difficult, you know, it is a really tough job. But within the toolkit, you have 4 modules. It's an online program. You have access to it to dip in and out as much as or as little as you want each day or each week. You can do it in your time. Module 1 is about mindful parenting. So learning the benefits of caring for yourself first, figuring out why your child is the way they is according to their temperament. Somebody said to me this week that's been on the program, she said it made so much sense when she learned that her child had a very persistent temperament, and that's why he's going on and on and on about things. Also looking at what's normal. What are the normal ranges of children's behavior? And I've studied this. I'm also a trained nursery teacher, so I really know what are within the realms of normal, and it's terribly reassuring for parents to hear that. Module 2 is the strategies for dealing with misbehavior. And if you haven't had tantrums yet, they may well be on their way, but I'm guaranteed that you've had misbehavior, behavior that you just don't know how to deal with. So it's how to respond. It's tools to respond in those meltdown moments, avoiding meltdowns happening, handling them and helping your child recover from them. Also not what not to do, because there are things that we can do that can make it so much worse. And helping kids take responsibility for their mistakes and saying sorry. So who here finds it's very difficult to get your kids to say sorry? Stick that in the chat box if you find saying sorry is difficult. So module 3 is about bringing out the best in your child, transforming their behavior through using descriptive praise, understanding their emotions. It's such an incredible gift to a child to be able to help them understand their emotion, help them develop their emotional intelligence. And I'm showing you how to do that. And module 4 is systems for keeping you sane. So routines for a calmer household without having to resort to the nagging and the reminding. Systems and rules for bedtimes, and going into detail about my great method for following instructions. So it is a really comprehensive program. The feedback that I've had, that one of the parts of the program that the parents love the most is that I do some role play demonstrations. I'm not actually, I call it adult child demonstrations. I'm actually using a soft toy, but the parents' feedback has said that it's incredibly powerful because it makes it feel very real, and it makes them learn the better way of speaking, how to talk so your child will listen, and listen so your child will talk. It comes like this. You can access it from your laptop, your iPad, your phone, your tablet. And the value of the Taming Toolkit alone, just the toolkit, and there's some bonuses that I'm going to tell you about in a second, would be at a minimum of £700. Because if you think about this, what price to have a calmer family life, what price to bringing out the best in your child, and avoiding things like having to take them to a psychologist if things get really bad, or having to get help yourself because you're so stressed out. So actually, it is such an incredible value that you get from this program. But I've also added, and the parents that came on the program in December absolutely loved this. Bonus 1, 4 group coaching calls with me for clarity and support. They're on Zoom. We get together over once a week for 4 weeks, and you can ask some questions. You can hear from other parents. It's so reassuring. I mean, the value of those 4 calls would be a minimum of £200, but just wait, because I have got such a special offer on this program. So bonus 2 is also a Facebook community, private community just for this group. And you can ask extra questions to me, and you can also support each other. And the value of that would be a minimum of £150. And I added in another bonus, which is how to reduce your stress with expert meditation teacher Lauren Bear. Being able to understand and learn about meditation is so incredibly useful. It's such a gift to yourself. And Lauren is a good friend of mine, and she's designed a little package specific for my program with some PDF slides and a little meditation for you. And so helpful to learn that. Melissa Denham was at her wit's end in lockdown. She was having constant battles with her little girl, and she followed my program, and she said it has transformed her her life, her house, her life and her family. She thought that her daughter was the problem, but actually she realized that it had to start with her changing her approach. And she learned how to, when her daughter was starting a meltdown, she learned how to reach her, how to prevent it in the first place. And her daughter now knows if she's starting to feel stressed, she'll come to her mum and she'll say, I need a hug from you to help me calm down. So Melissa says, forget expensive toys. This is the best present that you could give to your family. That's some feedback from past participants. So the normal value of the program, when you add up the modules and those 3 bonuses, would be £1,100. But I have got this on, and this will not stay on at this price because it is such a fantastic program, but I want to make it accessible. So I have it on at £247, or you can pay over 3 months for £95 a month. Now, if you compare that to one session, private session with me, would cost you just under £247. But you get unlimited time access to this program, 4 sessions with me on a Zoom group call, the Facebook group, and learning about how to manage your stress, all for £247 or £95 a month over 3 months. I think up in the chat box is the link to go and check it out, but it's myparentingsolutions.com/TTT. On that page of the website, you'll see that you can go for the premium program. There's, the standard program, or there is also a premium package, which involves private coaching with me, which you might be interested in. I would absolutely love to have you join me. I adore this program. I adore the sessions that I do with the parents. I love hearing their success stories. And I know that parenting is so tough, which is why I've brought my 20 years experience into this program. And I've got it on at a price that's accessible, so that you're not put off by, the cost of it. So the doors close to the program on Friday, the 26th of February at 5 p.m. I have an extra bonus for you tonight. It's for people that are just committed. They want to make that decision. Look, I really like Camilla. I like what she said. And I am just going to show you, so I'm going to show you what this extra bonus is, but this is for people that want to decide to go for it tonight. So it's an extra free workshop. It's manic mealtimes and fussy eaters, and you will learn from that online workshop all about how to manage mealtimes so much better than you might be if you've got struggles with children messing around at the table, refusing to eat things, and get hopping up and down, just stressful meal times. So you're going to get incredible value from that extra workshop, but this is only available for people who sign up tonight by midnight. So I'm giving you that chance to get access to the online workshop, Manic Mealtimes and Fussy Eaters, and it comes with couple of PDFs, which are brilliant printables that you'd really enjoy for managing the mealtimes rules. So that comes with the program. So this is where you would go once you've gone through to the checkout page. It takes a secure payment. I also offer a money-back guarantee. I am so confident in my program that I'll say to you, look, if after 14 days you're really not happy with the product, just email me and tell me why so I can learn, and then I'll refund you your money. So therefore you have no risk, and then there'll be no hard feelings between us. But I would love you to take action now. I'm here for questions, so I'd love to hear from you and for you to ask me questions. So you know what, you might be thinking, I just don't have the patience. but you will get the patience by being skilled, by having the tools, because that's what, so often it's when we don't know how to do things that we just don't know how to have that patience. You might think, okay, I need time to think about this. That's fine. The doors close next Friday, the 26th of February at 5 p.m. But tonight, if you'd like access to that workshop on managing mealtimes, then you need to go through to the checkout tonight. So tell me, I'm here now to ask you questions. I'd love to know if you are still with me and you are interested in investing in the program, what's holding you back? So just I'm answering in the chat box. In fact, I'll come on to camera now. So how do I do this? Yeah, so here I am in the camera. So tell me what might be holding you back. Just so you know, there's a little time lag with the questions, but I'd love to know what questions that you have. Some of them have come up and I haven't been able to focus so far on what you've been asking me. So do stick some of the questions in the chat box. So sometimes parents ask me things like, what do I do? How long will I get to access the program? Does everyone in the family have to adapt to the way with the children? I'm really struggling with my child. Only behaves with me this way with me, and I'm already trying to input these methods, but the others don't. What parents find, and I'm assuming you mean with a partner, Emma, is that everybody can watch it. So it's in little modules. You just watch it in your own time. You have your own login. In fact, it comes back to the place you were when you resume again. So you have the classes that are live with me, the four the group sessions that are once a week for 4 weeks. They're on a Tuesday evening. But with the online program, you can review it, go over it again and again. And you can also talk to each other about it. So that's parents find really, really helpful. I don't know if my reservation might be wondering if it needs to be worse to justify the spend. Catherine, I would say arm yourself. It's not just about dealing with really difficult behavior. It's about tools for fantastically positive parenting. And then believe me, children change, things happen. They're never going to be perfect the whole time, and you will feel so equipped. So I would just say, go for it, because you will skill yourself up in preparation for difficult times that children, you will hit difficult times with your child. What other reservations might you be having? How I could apply it for twins, they gang up sometimes. What parents will say, yeah, I can get that. Sometimes it's about figuring out ways to approach them slightly differently, because they have each have their own characters. So you might find, looking at the section in module 1 on temperament, that you realize that your twins have very different, well, I'm sure you do, but when you look at the temperaments, you realize that there are perhaps different ways of approaching them in order to get them to listen to you and in order to understand them a bit more. So, and sometimes the ganging up might be that you just, using a bit of humor around it and just approaching it in a different way. And that's where the tools come in, because it allows you to pick and choose from the tools that you use so that you approach it in a different way. And any other reservations? If you're thinking, you're still here and you're thinking, this sounds really good, I'm really tempted by this, tell me what your reservations are. Ask me some questions about it. Is it that you feel like you should know this? Because that's often what parents will say. I feel kind of embarrassed to get help with my parenting. And my view is that parenting is a fantastically difficult job, and why not learn from people that have been there before, that have done the research ahead of you, that have tried and tested the techniques, that have really learned and refined them, and then present them to you to learn. So that's what I would say. Somebody says, it's hard when they don't listen. Yeah, I saw that. Thank you for the information. How to improve eye contact with a child aged 2.5. Well, what I would say is when you get to module 3, which is all about getting them to learning how to talk so they'll listen, sometimes that eye contact might be they're avoiding it because they think that you're going to tell them off, or perhaps you haven't expressed your praise and your validation of them in the right way. So that might be something to do with eye contact. The content is accessible forever. Yeah, you have lifelong access to this program. And what parents that have been on it, who joined last year, say is that they keep coming back to it. It's one of those things that there are many layers to it. Or your child changes, and you need to come back to refresh your memory. So yeah, you can just, keep reviewing it. They say that they particularly love those role plays, and they'll come back to them and watch them again, or they'll listen to the meditation. Or there's also a really interesting interview with a child psychotherapist. They might not have listened to that. So yeah, you will have lifelong access to it. Okay. Not sure it'll be worth it because of finding time. Kels, you have all the time that you want to access the program. And what I have found that people in education, in fact, I was working with a teacher recently, and she said she absolutely loved the different approach that I had, and that it really, really benefited her. And she learned an awful lot to take back to the classroom situation. So actually, I think that you really would learn a lot from it. There is a money back guarantee. So if you do feel that you've looked at the program and you think that there isn't something for you to learn, then you can just come to me and say that you want your money back. But I don't think you will, but I'm open to that. How many hours does it take? Do you know what? I think within it, there are about 4 hours of content, including some of the bonus stuff. But you take your own time. So there is an app, so you can look at it on your phone. And some parents you don't even have to watch. You can put it on audio. So some parents will just, take a walk to pick up their kid from nursery and stick in their earphones and listen to it. So you can access it as much or as little as you like. And as I say, you can also review it. It's not a time limited thing. So you don't have to, as I say, you take your own time. You might find that you review it in 6 months' time because it's always there for you. And as somebody has said, there's training in every other job. We get trained to have a baby. We get a little bit of training to breastfeed them, maybe change their nappies, maybe a little bit on weaning, and then we're left to it. And, believe me, if you did any other job by winging it, you would really not do so well at that job. And I think we need to think of parenting like this. There is so much to learn, and I'm not saying you're doing a bad job. There is so much to learn, and you can do things better than you're doing them already. I'm still learning, and I still teach parents. I learn from them and they learn from me. But what I do know is I see my children as adults, that they have really turned out how I wanted them to turn out, and they might not have done. It's a huge responsibility that we have to raise healthy, well-balanced, emotionally balanced children who are resilient, who are go-getting, who can go out and make their way in the world and feel good about themselves and feel confident. That doesn't come from winging it. We need, it's a tough world out there, and we need to do the very best for our children. We'll buy them the latest toys. We'll buy them the best equipment, the bugaboo, You know, if you think about this training in comparison to the cost of a bugaboo, it's a fraction. It's a quarter of the cost of a bugaboo, and you've got it for life. Your bugaboo will be done within 2 years. So think about it like that. I would absolutely love you to join me. I would love that you get access to that training on. I think I've got it here. So, like I say, it's £247 or £95 a month. And if you want access to that online workshop, Manic Mealtimes and Fussy Eaters, then you need to sign up tonight. Any other reservations, any other questions? I'm here. Just tell me what it is that what it is that you'd like to ask me. Is it something about the content of the program? Anything that's making you sit on the fence? Because I'd love to help you make a decision either way. You know, I'm not here to strong arm you into joining me, but I would really love it if you do. So tell me what it is that you would like to ask me. I'll stay here for a little minute, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. So I'll just take you back to that. There's what's involved in the program. You can see that as you check out. So if you go and check it out by following that link, it'll tell you all that's involved in the program. I'd really, like I say, I'd love you to check it out. Love you to have a look. There's videos on that page that from other parents who have participated. And like I say, if you when you join tonight, you get access to the extra workshop on mealtimes. Does the content apply to age 11 or beyond? Great question. Actually, my examples used are for younger children. I've had parents on the program who had 11-year-old twins. They loved it, found it incredibly useful. So definitely, I'd say the examples will be relevant to up to that age. It doesn't deal with specific teenage issues that are slightly different. When your kids hit teenagers, there are extra things that you need to employ. However, the principles that I talk about are as relevant, particularly around the praise and the validating emotions. They are as relevant to a 2-year-old, to a 42-year-old, 52-year-old. I use it on my husband. But the examples that I'm giving are more for the younger age range. But like I said, I had parents of twins with twins of 11 who absolutely loved the program and got a huge amount from it. Catherine, I hope that you join me. It would be a real pleasure for me to have you on board, it would be great. Any other questions that I might have missed? How many hours does it take? Thank you for the information. Okay. Anything else that I could help you with? I don't know if anyone is still there, but I would probably think that you're not. I'm here if you want to ask me any questions. Okay. Okay, great. So I've just had a couple of people say, thank you, lovely. Thank you so much for joining me, Louise. I hope that you will, let's just switch my camera back on too. I hope that you'll join me on the program. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Kirsten. It's been absolutely lovely to have you on. Do go to have a look at the program. Do consider joining us. It would be really lovely. Yeah, and any other, I'm still here. So if you have any other questions, please do ask. And otherwise, I will probably move to switching it off. Any further questions at all? I'd be happy. If you're still on the fence, tell me why. Tell me what it is that's making you deliberate over it. Okay. Any Rose, you've come on. Any tips for head banging 18-month-old? Head banging would be it's a frustration. And when you learn the language, I'll just put my video on. When you learn the language, even for an 18-month-old, to validate that emotion, they start to acquire the language. Even, they won't be able, they'll start to understand what's driving it. So it's often a little phase that they'll go through, but actually learning how to explain to them how upset and frustrated they are will help to reduce the head banging. You'll also learn so many other things about the causes. There's neuroscience. I didn't even mention that yet. There's neuroscience within the program to explain what happens to a child when their anger and frustration builds up, and they will let it out physically. So that's what's happening with the head banging is that there's this frustration building up, and here the little thing is physical manifestation is banging their head. So it's quite helpful to just understand the neuroscience behind it in order to, realize where it's coming from. So I don't know if that answers your question. Rose, if you're on the fence, tell me if you're thinking, perhaps you're thinking, is 18 months too young to access this program? I would say that it's so great to be equipped ahead of time, and you'll always be able to come back to it. But I've had parents come on my programs with really small children and babies, and it gives them the confidence. They learn so much, and they just feel so much better equipped. So I don't know if that might help you. But if there's any other question that I could help you with, anything that's stopping you, so some of you I can see are still here. So are you sort of thinking, oh God, I just don't know whether to do this. I don't know whether to commit to it. I just can't decide. Then just do stick something in the chat box. Do tell me what it is that is causing you to be uncertain. Okay. Well, I thank you. Lovely, Rose. What's that? I never know if to tell him off. I don't think I'm the same needing the course, but we'll keep it in mind. Okay, great. All right, that's lovely, Rose. Yeah, definitely don't tell him off for doing it. Just empathize with him, because he will be doing it because he's feeling upset and frustrated by something. I don't think I'm at the stage. Okay, I get it. Right. Okay. That's absolutely fine. I totally understand that. If you do decide that you actually, you know what, I would like to learn to be prepared, then come and join me. But otherwise, I will release, I don't know when I'll release this program again this year, but I suspect I will be releasing it again. If anybody else has one last question to ask me, do stick it in the chat box. Do find out how, I'd love to find out how I could help you. Okay, I'm going to say thank you so much for joining me. It's been a delight, and I'm going to end the call now.